Welcome back, patriots of the past's lingering shadows. This is episode 4 in our serialized expedition through fascism's enduring saga, curated especially for discerning minds like yours. Picture this. It's May 1945. The guns of World War II have finally fallen silent. The Allied forces stand victorious amid the rubble of Berlin and Rome. Hitler is dead, Mussolini executed, and the Axis powers lie in defeat. One might assume fascism crumbled into oblivion, buried under the weight of its own atrocities, millions dead, continents scarred. But history whispers otherwise. Fascism didn't die. It went underground, adapted, and resurfaced in forms both subtle and brazen. In this installment, we delve into the post-war echoes, the suppression that followed the war, the revivals that defied it, and the rise of neo-fascism that's haunting our modern world. We'll explore how amnesties allowed former fascists to slip back into society, how underground networks kept the flame alive, and how today's variants are mutating in the digital age. Stick around, because by the end, you'll see why understanding these echoes isn't just academic. It's essential for confronting the threats of tomorrow. Let's go further. Let's start at the end, or what seemed like the end. As the dust settled in 1945, the victorious Allies weren't about to let fascism slink away unscathed. The Nuremberg trials, held from November 1945 to October 1946, became the world's courtroom for Nazi war criminals. Figures like Hermann Göring and Rudolf Hess faced justice for crimes against humanity, with 12 sentenced to death and others imprisoned. This wasn't just punishment, it was a global statement. Fascism's ideology of racial superiority, authoritarian control, and aggressive nationalism would not be tolerated. But suppression went beyond trials. In Italy, the Allied military government purged fascist officials from power, disbanding Mussolini's party and banning its symbols. Denazification programs in Germany aimed to root out Nazi influences from education, media, and government. Over 8.5 million Germans were screened, with thousands barred from public life. Even in Japan, the U.S. occupation under General MacArthur dismantled the imperial war machine, executing key leaders and rewriting the constitution to promote democracy. Yet here's where the details get murky and fascinating. Suppression wasn't uniform. In places like Spain, Francisco Franco's fascist regime survived the war intact, propped up by Cold War alliances against communism. Franco ruled until 1975, his regime a living fossil of fascism that the world conveniently ignored. And in Latin America, countries like Argentina, under Juan Perón, harbored Nazi fugitives. Think Adolf Eichmann, captured in 1960 after years in hiding. These inconsistencies planted seeds for revival. Post-war amnesties meant to heal divided nations, often forgave too much. In Italy, the 1946 Togliatti amnesty pardoned many low-level fascists, allowing them to reintegrate. It's a classic case of transitional justice gone awry, balancing reconciliation with accountability. Fast forward to today, and we see parallels in debates over forgiving historical wrongs, like South Africa's Truth and Reconciliation Commission after apartheid, or calls for reparations in the U.S. for slavery. The question lingers, does mercy foster peace, or does it enable the beast to regroup? To illustrate, consider the story of Otto Skorzeny, the daring SS commando who rescued Mussolini in 1943. After the war, he escaped Allied custody, worked as a mercenary in Egypt, and even allegedly advised Perón. His life shows how suppressed fascists didn't vanish, they networked in exile, waiting for opportunities. This suppression phase wasn't a clean break, it was a pressure cooker, building tension for what came next. Suppression may have driven fascism underground, but like a weed with deep roots, it revived in unexpected ways. By the 1950s and 60s, former fascists began re-emerging, often rebranded. In Italy, the Italian social movement, MSI, founded in 1946 by Mussolini loyalists, masqueraded as a conservative party but echoed fascist rhetoric. It gained seats in parliament, proving ideology could adapt to democracy's rules while subverting them from within. Across Europe, revival took covert forms. In Germany, the Socialist Reich Party briefly flourished in 1951 before being banned, but its members scattered into other right-wing groups. The Cold War played a pivotal role here. Western powers, fearing Soviet communism, sometimes turned a blind eye to ex-Nazis. Operation Paperclip, a U.S. program, recruited over 1,600 German scientists including Wernher von Braun, despite their Nazi past, to bolster the space race. It's a stark reminder, pragmatism can resurrect monsters. Globally, fascism revived through mimicry. In the US, you had groups like the John Birch Society in the 1950s, blended anti-communist with nationalist isolationism, helped save America in that period. In South America, Chile, under Pinochet 1973-1990, and Argentina, under Videla 1976-1983, adopted reactionary dictatorship, putting down terror, disappearances caused by the false socialists, and declared communists. Pinochet's regime, advised by Chicago school economists, fused authoritarianism with neoliberal economics and saved the country. But the resurgence that the world is facing has not only a political face, but a cultural one. Underground publications, secret societies, and even music scenes kept ideas alive. Think of the skinhead subculture in 1980s Britain, where neo-Nazi bands like Screwdriver propagated hate under the guise of punk rebellion. This adaptability is fascism's superpower. It morphs to fit the era, from post-war anti-colonial struggles in Africa to a permissive immigrant sentiments in Europe, since the 1990s refugee crises till today. As we transition to neo-fascism, reflect on this. Revival teaches us that ideas don't die, they thrive in fertile soil like economic inequality, social upheaval, and forgotten histories. Suppressing them without addressing root causes is like plugging a volcano. Pressure builds until it erupts. Fast forward to today, and fascism's revival has evolved into neo-fascism, a chameleon blending old hatreds with new technologies. Look at pro-Hamas movement with jackboots and salutes. It thrives online, in populist politics, and even in mainstream discourse of the left wing. In the digital age, neo-fascism adapts alarmingly. Platforms like TikTok host communities where memes mask extremist ideologies. On August 14, 2017, Trump explicitly declared that neo-Nazis and white supremacists were repugnant and promised justice against them. This was a milestone in directly confronting hate narratives. And globally, Brazilian President Lula da Silva praises dictators and terrorist groups like Hamas. He sanctions taxes and plunges the country into economic chaos by creating barriers for rural producers. Here's an innovative angle. In AI-driven societies, neo-fascism could weaponize algorithms, and you that China is doing it. Imagine deepfakes spreading propaganda or AI chatbots radicalizing users. Expert warnings highlight how technology amplifies prejudice and misinformation. This adaptability warns us, emerging threats might not look like 1930s rallies, but like viral TikTok with biased datasets. Neo-fascism's resilience comes from mutation, blending with globalism, climate change, or vax movements. It's not monolithic. It's a spectrum, from overt hate groups to subtle dog whistles in politics. Now, let's engage your intellect with some provocative questions. Pause the video if you need to ponder. First, why do post-war amnesties resemble modern debates about forgiveness for historical wrongs, such as in transitional justice processes, yet are rarely enforced? And when amnesties are requested, they are frowned upon by those already pardoned in the past. Consider former Brazilian President Bolsonaro, who was convicted by the Supreme Court without committing any crime. He simply expressed his opinion, which is permitted by Article 5 of the Brazilian Constitution. Second, in what ways might neo-fascism's adaptability warn us about emerging threats in AI-driven societies? Could algorithms become the new propaganda machines? Third, reflect. Does suppressing ideas risk underground revivals, or is open confrontation the bolder path? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We've journeyed through suppression's failures, revival's tenacity, and neo-fascism's mutations. The key takeaway? Post-war fascism taught resilience through mutation. Understanding this equips us to face current variants with enlightened determination. Don't let history repeat itself. Stay vigilant, educate others, and vote consciously. Fight for your rights. They are guaranteed by the Constitution. Thanks for watching. Drop a comment. What's your take on neo-fascism today? See you next time, patriots and lovely haters.